Look at this beautiful creature. How could anyone be afraid of one of God's greatest gifts? Oh God! Ah! Ah! Ah!
Hey y'all, it's Nolan, and welcome back to the most disturbing films of all time. Today we have our first viewer request. Oliver Young asked on the Cannibal Holocaust video, would Roar count? So, let's find out. Released in 1981, written and directed by Noel Marshall, Roar is a lighthearted adventure comedy centered around African wildlife. The film stars Marshall playing Hank, a naturalist who lives with a massive group of wild animals as part of his research. When his family from the States comes to visit him, they get to his home while he is away, expecting to pick them up from the airstrip, and must struggle alone in a house full of deadly big cats. At the same time, other residents of the area, concerned of the risk posed by the animals, plot to sneak onto the property and kill the lions. This was an interesting request because Roar isn't a horror film. Although the creatives behind this project include Noel Marshall, one of the producers for The Exorcist, and Tippi Hedren, the lead actress in Hitchcock's The Birds, on the surface, Roar isn't particularly shocking or disturbing. However, it's the context, which we will be getting deep into later, that makes this a surprisingly horrifying watch.
Look hard.
The film itself looks pretty good for the most part. There's a great eye for lighting and framing, and the editing is honestly excellent given what I assume was borderline unusable raw material to work with. The set design and location work great. It's easy to believe that this was filmed in East Africa rather than the American Southwest. The music is a bit cliche, but generally fits. Roar is actually a great example of how film music really establishes what mood a given scene is supposed to have. In the second half, once the pacing picks up a bit, I began to think that maybe there was actually a decent movie hidden somewhere deep in this thing, though it's sadly hidden very deep. Also, for what it's worth, there's quite a lot of cute cats. Let's look at some! As terrible as Roar ultimately is, and trust me, we'll get to that, I appreciated the truly sincere and legitimate call to action for the conservation of animals in the end credits. It almost makes me feel bad for having so many negative things to say.
He lives in you.
Still gonna say him though. First, and unrelated to anything, Noel Marshall as Hank in this movie, to me at least, kind of looks like Michael Carr's Dr. Gross in Faces of Death. Insert plug for that video here. This movie is painfully slow, meandering, and ultimately boring. Given the caliber of performance many in the cast should be able to pull off, it's disappointing how subpar the acting is, almost certainly a result of a bad script and even worse filming conditions. The film opens with admitting that all of the animals were untrained. This means that filming had to work around the whims of dozens of large cats, and the results of that plague nearly every aspect of this film. This is also the reason why Roar credits some of the animals not just as cast members, but as writers. Some of the footage had to be taken in a handheld documentary style, which does not mesh well at all edited next to the standard cinematography elsewhere. For a comedy, there are very few moments that I could even tell were supposed to be jokes, and most of those fall flat due to the terrible timing and pacing. Again, as a result of the whole lions everywhere thing. Credit where it's due, there was one joke that did get a legit chuckle out of me. However, every other joke is more like this one.
You must be on something. I put it in last Sunday. You expect us to sleep with the lions, are you?
What do you care if I sleep with my wife?
Did they just imply he fucks the lions? Although it's not nearly as bad as Cannibal Holocaust, there are a few scenes with noticeably bad ADR, and in general the dialogue is hard to hear or even comprehend. I feel bad being so negative. Let's look at more cute cats. Finally, the scene of the poachers dying has upsettingly good special effects. In any other film I'd be reviewing, I'd be praising this, but for what is supposed to be a family adventure comedy, this level of realistic gore is just horrifically out of place. Speaking of grotesque wounds and horrifically out of place gore, I guess we should finally talk about the elephant in the room. Literally!
Simba, you have forgotten me.
So the reason I bothered to review Roar, besides a lovely subscriber requesting it, if you want something reviewed, how's about you leave a comment and But the other reason we're exploring this film is because of the title it receives as the most dangerous film ever made. Roar features real, untrained big cats and elephants, and not just a handful. By the end of the filming process, the property/set was housing over 100 lions, tigers, panthers, leopards, and more. As the story goes, all or nearly all of the dozens of cast and crew members were seriously injured or near fatally wounded during the decade-long process of filming this movie. Some of those injuries include Noel Marshall having his hand punctured through, several leg puncture wounds, face and chest injuries, and resulting gangrene and infection. Tippi Hedren was bitten on the head by a lion, with the teeth scraping her skull. Bitten, scratched, and requiring over 50 sutures from a jaguar and a cougar, and she also had her ankle broken when an elephant picked her up by the foot and threw her. Doran Cowper was bitten in the head, neck, and chest, almost having his throat ripped out and nearly dying. And I cannot stress this enough, this is less than 10% of the injuries from making this film. The knowledge of the terrifying and disturbing state of the production, the amount and severity of near-death experiences on set, results in Roar being an incredibly difficult film to watch. Any moment where the big cats are interacting a bit too rough with the cast on screen becomes a question of if this is one of the times someone gets gored or nearly killed. Is this black leopard playing, or is this man about to die?
The cat's got a little excited.
This is supposed to be a joke, but all I can think of is a hospital visit. I can't tell if these are special makeup effects or just legitimate injuries. Yes, Mother Mary, please pray for these people. The best way to explain the sensation of watching Roar is to imagine putting on Faces of Death, but with the audio of America's Funniest Home Videos. Let's have some more cute cats. It all makes you ask.
Remember who you are.
From what I can tell, no animals were directly harmed for the sake of the production, except for the cows, zebra, deer, etc. used to feed a whole-ass 100 captive wildcats, and the cast and crew was made up of well-intentioned people who truly do seem to care emotionally for the well-being of wildlife. However, the fact is this production was dangerous, not only for the human cast and crew, but for the animals as well. Animals did get hurt and die due to the grossly irresponsible nature of Roar's production, specifically when a flood caused by the stupid attempt to make the US Southwest look like Kenya destroyed the set and property, taking down some of the fencing and allowing several animals to escape. The local police ended up shooting a few of the lions, killing them. Over 100 severely injured people, some unable to work and film again, a few dead lions, many needlessly stressed out humans and animals, and all we got out of it was an F-tier comedy. It cost almost $20 million to make and grossed less than $2 million worldwide. The movie tells no real story. The only arguable growth is that the family decides the deadly animals are now not deadly, even though they very much still are. The poachers are torn into chunks, and Togar learns to accept Robbie as the true leader of the Pride? Yet despite this 90-minute film lacking a meaningful resolution due to it lacking a meaningful plot, we then still have to sit through a 5-minute montage of cutesy animal moments set to some admittedly dope Peter, Paul, and Mary-esque music.
Hey, isn't it time?
This man's scalp was removed from his skull by this lion. I don't recommend Roar. For the general filmgoer, there's a reason this thing flopped. For the crowd that is into the so bad it's good thing, I think you'll be disappointed because it doesn't quite hit that mark. It's not so bad it's good, it's just bad. And for the fan of disturbing films, you're better off reading about the production, as it's the context that has horror, not the film itself. All in all, Roar is a mediocre 2 out of 10 comedy with a fascinating and disturbing backstory. It belongs behind Perfect Blue on the disturbing films ranking list. So that was the first viewer request, Roar. Here's the Disturbing Films list. As always, if there's anything on this list you'd like to see soon, or anything not on this list that you really think should be, then leave a comment below and your idea might be the next viewer request video. And if you want to see the next episode of The Most Disturbing Films of All Time, as soon as it comes out, don't forget to subscribe. Next episode, we'll be looking at another film that usually makes the top 3 on any Disturbing Films list, one that might actually have something important to say. Thanks for watching. I don't know if you can see it, but I got cut on my upper lip from filming that skit with, the cat, which is weirdly appropriate for Roar now that I think about it.